A vignette is one of the most important things you can add to your photos, yet so many photographers are creating them in a way that doesn't really make their images look better. In fact, it oftentimes looks worse. Hey everybody, I'm Austin James Jackson. I'm a professional landscape photographer based in the beautiful southern Utah. In today's video, we're talking all about vignettes, which is something that I apply to every single one of my images. If you don't already know, a vignette is simply just the darkening of the edges of your photo, which helps to bring your viewer's eye to the center of the frame. Most photo editing softwares offer really simple sliders to apply vignettes, but unfortunately, these often comes with side effects and can make your photos look poorly. In this video, I'm going to show you guys how to properly make a totally custom vignette that's going to work on your images 100% of the time. Let's not take up any more time talking. We're going to jump straight into this one. So whether you edit in Photoshop, in Camera Raw, in Lightroom, in my room, in your bedroom, wherever you edit your photos, there's probably some kind of a vignette slider. I want to show you guys a little bit better way to use that than just using the standard slider. So let me make this image a little bit larger here. What most people are probably doing is dragging the amount down. Now I'm going to show you why you don't want to do this, and I'm going to show you a little bit better way to do that. Even if you drag this amount down, I can make some adjustments. Sure, I can protect the highlights. I can feather it out a little bit more. I can make it more or less round. I can adjust the midpoint. There's a lot of things you can do. And ultimately, you can make it look all right. I mean, this looks decent, but look how dark these corners are. I'm not a fan of that. And there's not really much I can do about it. I can lower the vignette, but I still want it to be nice and dark in this region. So it's just not a great way to use the vignette. So I want to show you guys exactly how I go about using a vignette in Photoshop, and I'm going to make a totally custom vignette. Now, do not worry. If you've never used Photoshop before, I'm going to show you all you need to know, and you don't need to know anything about Photoshop to use it other than what I'm going to show you in this video. So I'm going to show you how to use it on 3 different examples. The first one's going to be this one. Again, why would I want to use a custom vignette on this as opposed to just dragging this? I don't want these brighter spots to get darkened. I want them to stay bright. Even if I slide the highlights, you can see when I go before and after, those dark spots are still receiving, or those bright spots are still receiving the darkness from the vignette. So in order to use this, just simply open your photo in Photoshop. You can right click or control click on a Mac, or if you don't have a mouse like me, you can go up to Edit In, and you can go to Edit in Adobe Photoshop 2023 or 2024 or 2027 or whatever year it is. Edit a copy with Lightroom adjustments. And if you're using a different software, there's certainly easy ways to load into Photoshop, so you can do it there. Now, once you're in Photoshop here, what you're going to want to do is uncheck this background layer. I mean, I guess that doesn't really matter, but I always do that anyways. Then I want to show you guys how to create an action in order to do this, because it is a step-heavy process, and you're not going to remember all the steps most likely off the first time. So I want to show you how to make an action so we can use it. So I'm going to show you how to make the action here. Then on the following photos, I'm going to show you how to use the action. So first thing that you want to do here is open your actions panel. So let's say that your actions panel was not there. You're like, how do I access my actions? Access my actions. That's a tough one. So you're going to go to you're going to go to Window. You're going to go down to Actions. Go ahead and click on that. I always like to put my actions in this right side bar right there. I drag and drop it just like that, but you can certainly leave it hanging free if you'd like. So now we've got our actions open here. Now the first thing that you need to do, and this is the only thing that you need to do manually every time, is to draw a circle on your image. And a lot of people will call their vignette draw circle first, so just so that they remember. The way you're going to do that is you're going to come up here and select the elliptical marquee tool. You can press M to bring that one up on your keyboard. Then you're simply going to draw a circle. Now you might have a hard time drawing the circle so that it ends up in the middle. What I like to do is hover roughly in the middle, hold my Alt and Option key, and drag out just like that. You want your circle to be probably about like that. Now you'll notice that mine isn't centered. You can simply just click and drag the center and it should snap. Like right, you can see how when I move it, it snaps right there. It's snapped into place. Now, everything else after this is going to be included on the action, which is great. So you don't need to remember anything else other than to draw the circle. So now we are going to click on Custom Actions. We're going to click the plus button. We're going to call this vignette. And like I said, a lot of people like to do draw circle first. Now we can go ahead and hit record. Now anything that we do is getting recorded this action. So at this point, don't do anything like adjust the exposure or anything without stopping the action, or else it's going to be messed up. And make sure you follow the video to a T here to make sure that it is just right. The action gets perfectly created. First thing that I want to do is go up to select. I want to go down to modify, and I want to go to feather. I want to feather by 1,000 pixels. I shoot with a 60 megapixel camera. I highly recommend if you're shooting with something 20 to 30 megapixels, feather by only 500 pixels. The reason is because my files, you can see, are almost 10,000 pixels wide by like 6,500 pixels long. If you're shooting with a 20 or 30 megapixel camera, you're going to be shooting with a image that's a lot smaller. So 1,000 pixel feather is going to be a lot more than it is on my screen. Without getting into the weeds too much, that's just my recommendation. If you got 40, 50, or 60 megapixels, use 1,000 pixel feather radius. And if you've got something smaller like 10, 20, or maybe even 30 pixels, megapixels from your camera, use a 500 pixel radius. Whatever you're going to do the radius, go ahead and hit OK. So now that has feathered this by 1,000 pixels. You can't really see it. You should see the circle change slightly. Now I want to create a new layer. I'm going to call this Vin for vignette. I'm going to create 2 new layers inside of it. I'm going to call the layers lighten and darken. I'm going to change the darken layer blend mode. I'm going to change that over to soft light, and I'm going to change lighten over to overlay. So the darken blend mode is going to be on soft light. The lighten layer is going to be on overlay blend mode. Then you can go ahead, make sure you're selected on the lighten layer first. Go to edit, go to fill with white, just like that. Drop the opacity of this layer to 30%. You can do less if you want, and I'll go back and fine tune this later, but 30% for now. Switch over to the darken layer, go to select, go to inverse. Now we're selecting the inverse. Now we're going to go to edit, fill. We're going to fill this one with black. Now we're going to Command D to deselect so that now we have no selection made. Then we're going to go ahead and stop the action just like that. You can close that down. Here is your action. I'll show you how to use it on the next photo. But after the action's made, I want to show you guys how this works. It's really cool and it's totally customizable. So I'm going to go Command minus to zoom out a couple times to make my photo smaller. This will make more sense in about 10 seconds. I'm going to go Command T to transform, and then Control click on the image to warp. Now I can warp this out, and I'm essentially creating a totally custom vignette, so I can warp this as I see fit in order to get a really nice looking vignette. Now I don't want to go too dark on the top, but I do want to go pretty dark on the bottom. When I darken this, it's gonna bring out the color of the water a little bit more. I want to bring this over to reduce and I can zoom in by hitting Command plus if I want to get a little bit closer, but I really want to darken the sides and bring the attention away from the sides of the frame. You can click and drag anywhere inside of this little like grid. Usually I like to drag inside the boxes, but sometimes I will grab the handles as well. So you can kind of just play around with it until you get a vignette that you like. It does take a little bit of finesse and a little bit of practice in order to get this to where it's feeling really good. You want to make sure you don't drag inside, because then you'll have this weird like lighter spot. So make sure that everything is outside of the original image. Go ahead and hit enter when you're done. That'll take just a second to load out. Now I can zoom in, and now I will adjust the lighten as well. So if you feel like the bright area in the center, you can see before and after. If you feel like it's a little too bright, just drop the opacity. I'm usually around 10 to 20%. Sometimes I'll do it up to 30. I can toggle the darken. And let's look at the whole thing. We've got before, we've got after. And let me zoom back in. We'll full screen this one here for you. We've got before the vignette, after the vignette. So I made a totally custom vignette that looks a lot better than it did in Lightroom when I was just using the slider. Looks really nice. And I think that this helps bring in like a final touch, like almost like a nice finish to the photo to help keep the attention of my viewer in the center of the photo. Let's look at another example. All right, we're back here in Photoshop and we need to open our actions again, which for me is right there. If you lose them and you don't know where they are, go to Window and just select Actions right here. It'll bring the Actions box open for you. Now, luckily, we noted that we needed to draw the circle first. So again, we're gonna grab our elliptical marquee or circle selector tool, hold Alt and Option on the center of the photo, click and drag out, get this like ballpark close to where we want it. Then I can just click and drag to move it over. Right in there looks good. Now I hit play on the action and look how quickly that loaded out with all of the right settings, exactly what I need. This is what's really powerful about it. It does take a little bit of time to create that action, but once you've created it, you've got it made for good and it's really easy to apply. Now in this particular photo, you can see the vignette is coming in really strong. The brighten in the center is also pretty strong. I'm gonna start off with the darkening aspect of the vignette. Again, I'm gonna go Command T to transform, and then I'm going to control click on the image to warp. Then I'm going to zoom out, Command minus, and then I'm just going to start dragging these sliders around. Now in this photo, this kind of a vignette is going to be really beneficial because this top section where it's foggy, I don't need to apply as much vignette as I might want to apply in the bottom of the photo where we have some like busy ferns in the tree and we want it to be a little bit darker at the bottom than we might at the top. And I do still want a little bit of vignette at the top, but not a lot. Maybe about right in there looks good to me. I can go ahead and hit enter when I'm done. Takes just a second to load out here. I'm gonna go Command 0 to zoom back in to fit. Now you can see there is the darken aspect. Look how much more I'm darkening the bottom of the frame than I am the top. You would not be able to do that using the vignette slider in Lightroom or Camera Raw or anywhere else. Now I'll toggle the brighten. I'm thinking it's a little too bright. Let's drop this down to maybe like 18%. And before, after, before, after. So again, it just really helps my viewer's eye to kind of stay in the center of my frame there. Brings interest to the center by not only darkening the outside, but brightening the inside. Let's take a look at one more example. So this is definitely one of the more dynamic examples in a photo that you absolutely have to do this on. Let me show you here. I'll draw my circle, holding Alt Option in the center once again, just like that. I'm gonna go ahead and hit play, let that load out. Now, this is where you're gonna see this really make a huge difference. Because I do not wanna darken the sunlight here, I'm going to think about that when I'm warping my vignette. Again, Command T to transform on this darken layer. Control click, select warp, zoom out, Command minus there, and drag this around. Now, I don't want to darken this area where the sun is, which because we're using soft light, it's already not really doing that. But I just wanna make sure that I drag the vignette away so that it's not darkening that area. Whereas down here, kind of lower in the photo on the snow, I'm fine to darken that because it's in the shadows. I'm gonna drag this inwards a little bit, maybe adjust this around. Like I said, you'll get a feel for it after you've done this a few times. Ultimately, you wanna create a vignette that is hard to tell that you've created a vignette, but helps to bring attention to the center of your frame. You can just continue to bring that up. Somewhere like that feels pretty good. I'm gonna hit enter, let that one load out. Then we will hit Command 0 to bring the image back to fit. Now we can toggle this. You can see I've darkened the bottom. I have not really darkened the top at all here. You want to keep in mind when you're making a vignette where the light is coming from. Since the light's coming from the top, I don't want to darken the top. I don't want to darken where the light's coming from. I want to darken the places where the light is not going to necessarily be hitting, like down here on the edge of this rock and on the edge of this rock. So that's looking pretty good to me. The lighten is actually looking nice. You can see because this is a really bright image, it's helping to bring a little bit of glow into the center. So before, after, before, after. Again, this adds a lot of tonality to my photo. You can see here, this rock is like pretty much the same all the way through, which is the same as this rock and this rock. when I add the vignette, I add a lot more depth because we've got darker rock, gets a little bit brighter, even brighter here, and then darker over here. So the vignette really helps on this image. So that's how you create that totally custom vignette. Really easy to do in your actions here. Keep these actions on your menu bar so that all you have to do is draw the circle, hit vignette, hit play, and you can adjust it as you see fit. Yes, it takes longer than using a slider in Lightroom, but it will give you far better looking vignettes, far better looking photos. I personally think a vignette is one of the most important things you can do to your photos. Thank you guys so much for checking out this video. I truly hope that it's gonna help you in the future with your photography. This is exactly how I vignette every single one of my images, and I'm not holding back any secrets. While it does take a bit more time to do, this is by far the best way to create a compelling vignette that complements your image rather than taking away from it. If you guys have questions, please don't hesitate to leave them down below. I always try and respond to all the questions and comments. And of course, if you found this video helpful, make sure to subscribe for weekly photography videos that are going to help you to level up and become a better photographer. Thanks again so much for watching. We'll see you guys next time.